Quiet people have the loudest minds. Stephen Hawking, there is a kind of intelligence that never seeks applause. It walks through life softly, unshaken, unfazed, undistracted. The world today celebrates those who speak loud, move fast, and share everything. But the truly wise, they know the value of silence. They understand that not everything must be seen, said, or shared, because intelligence isn't always found in brilliance. It's found in discretion. What an intelligent person withholds tells you more than what they reveal, and there are 3 things they protect with their life. 3 things they keep private, no matter the pressure of the world. And when you understand what they are, you begin to unlock the secret to a happy, peaceful, and powerful life. The intelligent understand something most overlook. Not everything that is known needs to be spoken. They move through life like quiet rivers. Beneath the surface, powerful currents flow, but to the outside world, they appear still. They have learned, through experience and observation, that silence is not emptiness. It is protection. It is wisdom dressed in quiet. And so, there are 3 sacred things they guard, not out of fear, but out of understanding. The first is their next move. An intelligent person doesn't broadcast their plans like fireworks in the night. They don't lay their dreams bare for anyone with ears to dissect or diminish, not because their plans are fragile, but because they are still in bloom. The soil of creation is delicate, and every seed planted needs the quiet of darkness to grow. Too much light too soon, too much noise too early, and the dream dies before it breathes. They know that when you speak too soon of what has not yet formed, you open the door to voices that do not understand its shape. Doubt enters, envy lingers, distraction creeps in. The dream becomes public property before it has roots, so they wait. They nurture in silence. They let the fruit speak when it's ripe, not the branch when it's still bare. They understand the energy of anticipation, and they value patience over praise. They don't make progress. They live it, quietly, with intention, because real power doesn't announce itself. It arrives. And when it does, the world recognizes it not by the noise it made getting there, but by the impact it leaves behind. The second is their personal life. In a world that celebrates exposure, they have learned the sacredness of privacy. They don't confuse vulnerability with exhibition. They don't feel the need to prove their relationships, their joys, their heartbreaks. These are not things to be displayed. These are things to be held, gently, deeply, with reverence. They do not open the door of their heart for just anyone to walk through. Love to them is not a performance. It is a sanctuary, and so they protect it. They protect the people they care about. They protect the fragile moments that make a relationship real, the quiet glances, the shared silence, the truth between words. These are not meant for the world's consumption. They are meant to be lived, not narrated. The intelligent have suffered in this way. They have known what it means to let too many voices into their most sacred spaces. They've seen how the world interprets love like a spectator sport, praising it, judging it, dissecting it. And so now they hold it close, not out of secrecy, but out of sanctity. They also protect their pain, not by denying it, but by not offering it as currency for sympathy. They understand that healing is not always public, that growth often happens in the shadows, that some scars are not meant to be shown, but simply carried with dignity. They do not chase validation through vulnerability. They let their pain be a teacher, not a performance. Because when you speak too freely of what hurts you, you allow others to hold the pen to your narrative, and that is something the intelligent never allow. They write their own story, and sometimes that means writing it in silence. The third thing they guard is their inner peace. In a world built on reaction, they choose stillness. They do not engage every insult. They do not answer every provocation. They do not attend every argument they're invited to. Because they know energy is not infinite, and attention is currency. To spend it carelessly is to bankrupt the self. They understand that not every opinion needs a reply, and not every conflict needs their presence. They've realized that peace is not a gift. It is a discipline. It is something you cultivate, not something you stumble into. And so, they protect it like one would guard a flame in the wind, gently, steadily. Without apology, they've discovered that peace doesn't always mean silence around you. Sometimes it means a silence within you, even when the world is loud. It means choosing what matters over what's urgent. Choosing calm over control. Choosing solitude over shallow company. Stephen Hawking, though trapped in a body that refused to move, moved the minds of millions. He once said, "However difficult life may seem, there is always something you can do and succeed at." That success for him was never about dominance. It was about focus, about narrowing his world to what he could control and letting go of the rest. He did not fight the world's noise. He turned into a frequency only he could hear, and from that space, he spoke to the cosmos. This is what the intelligent do. They listen more than they speak. They reflect more than they react. They rise not through volume, but through depth. They don't need the world's chaos to feel alive. They don't need its applause to feel seen. They are moved by something deeper, a sense of purpose, a love for truth, a reverence for mystery, and so they keep their steps measured. Their words are few. Their souls are protected because they have learned the moment you expose everything, you surrender something. The more you reveal, the less remains yours. And so they choose carefully. They hold back. They wait, not because they are afraid to speak, but because they understand the power of not speaking. They understand that the most intelligent use their silence not as absence, but as presence. It is a pause filled with meaning, a withholding filled with wisdom, a quiet filled with thought. And in that quiet, they find themselves, over and over again. What they keep private is not a sign of secrecy, but of sovereignty, a quiet kind of strength that doesn't need recognition because it already knows who it is. And that kind of wisdom is the beginning of a truly happy life. We live in a time where everything is shared before it is understood. A meal, a thought, a moment of joy, even grief, offered up to the digital crowd like tokens of identity, as if the self must be proven in fragments to be believed. But the intelligent, the truly self-aware, begin to see the hidden cost of this exposure. They begin to notice how the more we share, the more we scatter ourselves, piece by piece, post by post, until we are no longer whole, but a collection of impressions, shaped not by who we are, but by what others expect us to be. To keep things private is not an act of fear. It is an act of ownership. It is the quiet reclaiming of the soul from a world that profits from distraction. The intelligent recognize that not everything sacred should be spoken. Not every joy should be captured. Not every emotion needs an audience. They notice how, when they guard their intentions, they move with clarity. When they guard their relationships, they love with sincerity. When they guard their peace, they live with depth. And it's not because they are hiding. It's because they are living from the inside out, not the outside in. This is the deeper meaning. What we choose to keep private defines not only our boundaries, but our values. In that space of quiet protection, we begin to understand who we are without the mirror of other people's opinions, without the need for applause, without the weight of explanation. And in that space, a new kind of freedom grows, one not built on isolation, but on clarity. Because every time we overexpose ourselves, we invite distortion. A dream spoken too early becomes a target. A love flaunted too often becomes performance. A pain shared too widely becomes a spectacle. The intelligent learn sometimes painfully, that the more people know about the delicate parts of your life, the more permission they feel to shape them, to question your decisions, to mock your failures, to envy your success, and so they begin to guard the roots of their life, the invisible things that truly matter. Just like a tree draws strength from what lies beneath the ground, they draw strength from the unseen. From the thoughts they nurture alone, from the prayers no one hears, from the discipline practiced in solitude, from the forgiveness extended in silence. These quiet acts of integrity form the unseen architecture of a powerful life. Stephen Hawking, in all his brilliance, knew the difference between noise and truth. Despite his fame, he was not loud. His life wasn't a spectacle, it was a study. He understood that intelligence is not in proving yourself to the world, but in remaining grounded in who you are, even when the world doesn't understand you. He spoke with precision because his thoughts were crafted in silence. And from that silence, galaxies opened. The reflection, then, is this. Perhaps we've misunderstood what it means to be seen. Perhaps real visibility isn't in being known by many, but being known deeply by a few. And more importantly, being known fully by ourselves. That kind of self-knowledge doesn't come through constant expression. It comes through sacred restraint, because there are things that grow only in darkness. A seed needs time beneath the soil. A wound needs the shelter of stillness. A dream needs the privacy to unfold without pressure. In our rush to be visible, we forget that invisibility can be a blessing. It gives us space to fail in peace, to evolve without judgment, to love without interference, to heal without commentary. The intelligent are not afraid of that space. They do not confuse silence with irrelevance. They don't equate privacy with loneliness. They understand that a full life does not need to be fully displayed, and in choosing what to keep private, they reclaim something most people have lost: the right to be whole without being watched. When you protect your peace, you begin to hear your own voice again, the voice that knows what matters, the voice that doesn't need to impress, the voice that doesn't rush, the voice that says, "This is mine, and it is enough." This kind of wisdom doesn't shout. It doesn't compete. It doesn't seek validation. It simply is. And from that being, a deeper form of happiness arises. Not the happiness of momentary pleasure, but the joy of alignment, the joy of waking up and knowing that your life is your own, that your thoughts are not dictated, that your energy is not wasted, that your soul is not rented to every passing opinion. And yes, it may seem strange in a world addicted to expression to choose silence. But silence is not absence. It is presence, refined presence, a presence that doesn't need permission, a presence that doesn't need praise. The intelligent person lives with this awareness. They do not advertise their evolution. They live it. They let the results speak where the world demands explanations. They let their actions echo where the world craves declarations. They let their peace be their signature, not their status, not their following, not their fame. So the next time you feel the pressure to share something sacred, ask yourself, who am I doing this for? The world's approval or my own alignment? The more you answer that honestly, the more you begin to realize privacy is not a wall, it's a garden. A place where things grow, not because they're hidden, but because they're protected. And in that garden, the intelligent tend to what matters most, quietly, carefully, consistently, because they know a beautiful life doesn't demand attention. It simply requires intention. And so, the quiet life, the intelligent life, is not marked by applause or visibility, but by an inner elegance, the kind that doesn't need to be spoken to be felt, the kind that moves gently through the world, touching it without demanding anything in return. It is the life of someone who has made peace with not being understood by everyone because they've finally begun to understand themselves. We are conditioned to believe that more is always better, more visibility, more sharing, more connection. But connection without boundaries leads to collapse, and visibility without intention leads to vulnerability. Not the empowering kind, but the draining kind, the kind that strips away our sense of ownership over our lives. The intelligent choose something else. They choose depth over breadth, meaning over performance, stillness over spectacle, because what they've realized, perhaps in the quietest moments of reflection, is that happiness is not a destination. It's a condition of alignment, a state where your outer life is not at war with your inner one. And for that alignment to exist, privacy must be present, not as isolation, but as a sacred boundary, a space where the soul breathes, where thoughts take root, where love matures without being measured. Stephen Hawking once said, "Quiet people have the loudest minds." He was right. The mind that listens more than it speaks, that thinks deeply before it acts, that chooses presence over performance, that mind creates worlds. And the soul that guards its peace, not from fear, but from reverence. That soul glows even in darkness. There is a kind of happiness that does not shout. It does not need to be photographed, recorded, or explained. It lives in simple things, in the comfort of knowing your plans are safe within your heart, in the assurance that your relationships are real even if no one sees them, in the serenity of not needing to prove your worth to anyone. The intelligent have stopped chasing the world. They've stopped begging for understanding from people who were never meant to walk their path. They no longer look outward for validation because inward is where the truth resides. They have become, in their own quiet way, sovereign, and that sovereignty changes everything. It brings a softness that is not weakness, but wisdom, a patience that comes from no longer needing to rush into visibility, a confidence that doesn't ask to be noticed, but still cannot be ignored. To live this way is not to retreat from life, but to walk into it fully awake. It is to understand that life's most meaningful treasures are often hidden, kept private not because they are shameful, but because they are sacred, and sacred things lose their magic when exposed to careless eyes. So if you have something precious, an idea, a love, a personal P, stand to it as you would a fire in the cold, shield it, feed it, let it burn steady, not for display, but for warmth. Let it illuminate your path, not the stage. Because one day, you will look back and realize that the things that shaped your life the most were not the moments the world saw, but the ones it didn't. The decisions made alone, the forgiveness granted in silence, the strength gathered in darkness, the tears that fell without witnesses, and the victories you never had to announce. Stephen Hawking faced more silence than most, a silence forced by his body, but embraced by his spirit. And in that silence, he found galaxies. In that stillness, he discovered truths that spoke to the universe itself. His life wasn't loud, but it was vast, not because he shared everything, but because he shared what mattered, when it was ready and not before. There is something deeply human in this lesson, a reminder that we are not here to be consumed, but to be, not to impress, but to express authentically, deliberately, and sometimes privately. So what then is the final thought? It is this: protect what is sacred, not because the world is cruel, but because some things are too beautiful to be carried by many hands. Protect your vision until it is strong enough to stand. Protect your relationships until they are mature enough to walk. Protect your peace until it is unshakable. This is not selfishness. This is stewardship of your energy, of your purpose, of your soul. And as you walk this path, quietly, intentionally, you may not always be seen, but you will always be aligned. You may not always be understood, but you will always be whole, and that is a life far greater than anything applause can offer. In the end, it is not about hiding from the world. It is about honoring what the world cannot hold for you. And in that honor, there is peace. In that peace, there is freedom. And in that freedom, there is joy. Let the world keep shouting. Let others chase the crowd. You simply live quietly, truthfully, fully. Because sometimes the most intelligent thing you can do is keep what matters most. Your next move, your heart, your peace, entirely, unapologetically, and beautifully private.